Hey, what's up guys, Guardian here, coming to you guys with a new deck profile, and yeah, we have Sanctuary Guard Dragon, finally. Would have done this a lot earlier if I could have, but yeah, saw some delays with the product for Valiant Sanctuary, so if you haven't seen that yet, and you would like to see an opening for the product to see what you get, I'll put a little eye icon up here for you to go check the video out. But yeah, this is going to be the deck profile for Sanctuary Guard. I have constructed the deck for it, and I'm pretty happy with this build. It's pretty straightforward. I've seen a few variants in lists, but I feel like I'm pretty happy with the version I've gone with. But there is room, there is a little bit of wiggle room that you can do in here to change it to your liking. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the list that I've constructed. So without further ado, we'll go into the deck and I'll show you guys what I'm playing. So to start with, of course, we have the grade 3s. We have the man himself, Sanctuary Guard Dragon. So this guy is a beast. So his skills are: if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, and you have a grade 1 unit, this unit's original critical becomes 2. So really, really cool. So more times than often, we are going to be focusing on Force 1 in the deck, since Sanctuary Guard will just gain the original crit of 2. So that's pretty nice. And the main skill, of course, is his second skill, which is once per turn, at the end of the battle that it attacked, while not boosted, you can counterblast 1, rest 3 of your back row grade 1 rearguards, and discard a card from your hand. Then you stand this unit, and all of your units in the front row get 10,000 power. So you essentially get a front trigger in the front row, which is rather nice. So it makes up for the fact that you're not getting your boosters, but you're getting that 10k, and you're also getting a restand with the Vanguard as well. But you do have to discard that card, and counterblast, of course. So, really solid. It gives Royal Paladin sort of a centralized Vanguard swing, which is not really what it's known for. I mean, the best example for that, really, for back in the day, was like Think Saver Dragon, but yeah, they decided to go for a restanding mechanic with Sanctuary Guard, which, I mean, to be fair, with the way that they've designed cards in the V-Series, I was kind of expecting something across those lines to pop up for Royal Paladin eventually. So they decided to go with Sanctuary Guard on that. But yeah, I rather like Sanctuary Guard. It's not too insane, and I don't think it was like doing that well when it originally came out. But I do like the gimmick around it, and I do like the feel of the deck overall. I've been playing it online a fair bit, so yeah, it's a pretty cool deck. So Sanctuary Guard, pretty cool. But yeah, you're going to be playing 4 copies of these for a Sanctuary Guard deck, obviously. So next, we have the other grade 3 of the deck, which we're just playing 2 copies of Knight of Heavenly Spears Agganips. So this guy basically is rather simple. Vanguard, once per turn, Counterblast and Soul Blast, and 2 of your units get 10,000 power to the end of the turn. And if your damage has 4 or more cards, you get to countercharge 1. So the main reason for this, obviously, is to basically power up your Sanctuary Guard Dragon. So it is rather nice, actually, the fact that you do get the countercharge back if you are at a large threshold of damage. So you can kind of hold on to your resources for other cards that require counterblast. But you don't need to worry too much about that, because we do have a grade 1 in the deck that works with Sanctuary Guard to countercharge you. But yeah, it's basically there just to help buff up the Vanguard, get a bit more power going with the restand, and yeah, it's rather solid as a nice 2-of, I think. So 2 copies of him. And then next we have the grade 2s. We are going to be playing 4 copies of Wigstan. So Wigstan has a pretty nice variety of skills here. So he has a continuous skill of Rearguard Circle. During your turn, if your Vanguard is with Sanctuary Guard in its card name, this unit gets 5,000 power for each of your back row grade 1 rearguards. So he can get rather large. So typically you're going to have the 3 grade 1s in the back row, right? So he'll be 25k on his own. Then he has another skill, which is Vanguard. When placed, you can counterblast 1, look at 7 cards from the top of your deck, and call 1 grade 1 card from among them to a rearguard circle, and then shuffle your deck. So he's going to be helping you filter through your deck to look for your grade 1s, essentially. This is actually pretty good with Felax and the grade 1, since Felax can actually bounce this back to our hand, and then we have the opportunity to reuse him again to, filter the deck for more grade 1s. And also, he's just going to be a large rearguard, 25k, and then Sanctuary Guard will pump him up to 35, which is pretty good. So not too bad overall. Definitely going to be playing 4 copies of Wigstan. So next, for the grade 2s, we, of course, have the guy that seems to be in every deck for Royal Paladin lately. 4 copies of Livarot. So yeah, still playing this guy because he's just really, really good. Yeah, when placed, Vanoria, when you can counterblast one, search your deck up to one grade 2 card, call to an open rearguard circle, shuffle your deck, and if you have no face cards in the damage zone, you may pay Soul Blast 1 instead for this cost. So yeah, really solid, very versatile, get you what you need, and even if you don't have the CB to call Wigstan out, you still get the power from him to have a good rearguard attacker, which is not too bad. And also you can then use Felax to then bounce it back to your hand so that you have it for the next turn, so that you can use his counterblast skill. So that's not too bad. But the other side to Livarot that I like about him is that he's actually able to search out another grade 2 in the deck, which has a bit more flexibility, which is going to be 3 copies of Great Sage Barron. So Barron, I think, is really, really nice in this deck. It's got a really nice place in here because his skill is basically on rearguard once per turn. When your other unit attacks, you may have that unit get 5,000 power until the end of the battle. And then if that unit that got the 5,000 power is a grade 3 or greater, you can then pay the cost of Counterblast 1 and retire this unit, and then that unit gets critical +1 until the end of the turn. This is really good because, of course, Sanctuary Guard is a grade 3. So you can turn that Counterblast into a crit, and then if your Sanctuary Guard already has the crit from its continuous skill, that's a 3 crit Vanguard swinging at the opponent twice, which, you know, if they're at 0, which they're more than likely not, but let's say they're at 1 or 2, you know, you're pretty much threatening lethal already, right? And we are playing a larger amount of crits in the deck as well, so you can get to a lot of lethal plays with this card and Sanctuary Guard. And also the fact that it gives 5k to any unit that you want. He's got really good synergy with your Livarot, because if you don't want to call out the Wigstan, you can call out this instead. And even if you're not using him for the skill, for the critical, you can still use him as somewhat of a Sudai booster, if that makes any sense, right? Because you can just allocate the 5k to whatever you want. And then, obviously, if it is the grade 3, you have the option to go critical as well, as long as you have the resources there. But I do think 3 is a nice number for this. I've seen variants of like 4 or 2, sometimes 1. I went for 3. There wasn't really much else with the grade 1s that I wanted to do, and I felt like this had a nice place as a 3 of. I was thinking about playing Gamoris in the grade 1s to recycle this, but honestly, it kind of just made sense to have the extra copy of this in the deck anyway, since it gives us more potential right targets so we don't end up misgrading, and also we have the utility of him whenever we need him, essentially. So yeah. So Barron is a really, really cool card in Sanctuary Guard. I would definitely advise running that. So we have the grade 1s next. We have 4 copies, of course, of the Sanctuary Guard grade 1. We have, what's he called? Authoritative Knight Ballizal, or Ballizal. So this guy's actually pretty sick, to be fair. He's got 2 skills. Vanguard skill, which is when placed, look at 7 cards on the top of your deck, reveal up to 1 Sanctuary Guard Dragon or Knight of Conquest Wigstan from among them, and put it into your hand, and then shuffle your deck. So yeah, it's kind of like other grade 1s that we've seen, where they can search out the grade 2 or grade 3, sort of like Jeffrey from Gold Paladin with Gurgrit. But yeah, he searches out your Wigstan or your Sanctuary Guard, which is rather nice, and then those can obviously line up pretty nicely with your rides. So really, really cool. Now, the Rearguard skill is what's quite important here, which is, when your Vanguard with Sanctuary Guard in its card name attacks, that unit gets 10,000 power until the end of the battle. So bear that in mind. You only get the 10k until the end of the battle, okay? So you don't continue that 10k. But if you have no face-up cards in your damage zone, countercharge 1. This ability may only basically it's a hard once per turn. That's essentially the long the long text there. But yeah, it's really nice because if you are damage denied, essentially, you don't really need to worry about that, because as long as you got the Ballizal, you will be countercharging when the Sanctuary Guard attacks, giving you the resource that you need to use Sanctuary Guard skill, which is really cool. The 10k is nice just for, you know, the extra pressure. But obviously, do remember that you want to get the 10k once for that one attack, and then when Sanctuary Guard would restand, you would then get the power from Sanctuary Guard skill anywhere. So you're kind of not really missing out on it, kind of. But yeah. Now, you could actually decide to give the 10k for the restanding attack if you wanted to, but that's up to you. But yeah, of course, he's a 4 of. Came with Sanctuary Guard, of course, and he's got a consistency skill for the riding Vanguard skill, and a very useful rearguard skill to help us have the resources that we need. So definitely play 4 of him. And then next we are playing, of course, the Grade 3 Searcher, Sicilus. I decided to go with the old art just because I kind of prefer it a bit more. It kind of looks a bit awkward for me to have like one full art card in the deck when everything else is like, got a border on it, but that's just me. I'm a bit weird like that. But anyway, you do want to be playing this. You get them as a promo in the Sanctuary Guard product, so that's really, really nice value right there. But yeah, you want to be filtering for your Sanctuary Guard. You want to make sure you can get your pieces consistently, and this will definitely help with that. The 13k is not really that relevant since you're going to be resting most of your grade 1s anyway, but it is important to know that if you do have him in the front row as an attacker, he can at least attack on his own, right? Because he's a 13k. So that is kind of nice. But yeah, mainly in there for the grade 3 search factor, which is really cool. And then next we have one of the cooler cards in the deck, in my opinion, which is 4 copies of Lunar Crescent Felax, or Felix. No, it's Felax. I always get this guy's name mixed up. Regardless, this guy is sick because he gives you so much utility. Because you don't really spend your Soul Blasts that much in this deck, the only other card that Soul Blasts technically is your Agganips, but yeah, this card will just give you resources with things like your Grade 3 Searcher, for example. If you want to bounce this back to your hand for the shield or the skill reuse again, you can. You just bounce it back, call it down next turn, get another chance to look for your Grade 3. But obviously, like I said earlier, the main resource that I like using it with is with Wigstan, because you can bounce this back to your hand, get the skill off again, filter your deck for more grade 1s, and set up the field for your Sanctuary Guard Dragon. Also, he gets 5k, which is very useful, so he is also a 13k attacker. So it's quite nice, because these cards that are 13k attackers, when your Sanctuary Guard is restanding, they're getting 10k from his restand skill. So they're technically 23k attackers if you do have them in the front row. So even though we have a bit larger of a grade 1 count than the average deck, we still have fairly good attackers to be calling, even if they are grade 1s anyway. So yeah, very nice utility card for Felix. You can do this in the early game as well, ride this, call this, and then bounces back, for more filtering chances. Just a very, very solid card. So definitely going to be playing 4 copies of those. And then for the final grade 1, we do need a little bit of draw power in here, so we got 4 copies of the Little Sage Marron. So Marron is really, really useful. Of course, it can combo really nicely with your Livarot. Where is he? There he is. Because, yeah, if you've got the 1 counter blast, you can call this, activate the Marron, draw the card first, and then you can pay the Soul Blast cost for this instead. So I guess Livarot is also a Soul Blast, but, it's optional. But yeah, you get the search as well, just from the 1 CB and the draw, so that's really, really nice. But yeah, it's I kind of prefer this over Allen. I know that some decks play Allen, but with me, it's like you're going to be sticking all your grade 1s in the back row more times than often, unless it's something like Felix or the Sicilus for the 13k attacks. But yeah, it kind of makes more sense to me because you're going to be you're having this in the back row all the time. And then you can just call things in front of it for a CB to just get a draw. So, yeah. But you can play this with Allen. Like, if you have the space for the Allens, by all means put it in. Because the more draw that you have, the better. Because it just gives you more consistency with seeing pieces, right? So, 4 copies of Marron just for the draw. And then we have the grade 0s. We have, of course, our 1 copy of our starter, Ambrosius. Very, very nice. Came in a foil as well. The old Sanctuary Guard starter, so definitely going to be playing that in a Sanctuary Guard deck. And now for the triggers, you are going to be prioritizing crits more than anything in this deck. So for me, I decided to go for the 4 Llew and the 4 Flogal, just for a standard, 8 crit. But then I also decided to include 2 of the Sentinel crit. So I have 10 crits overall. And then alongside this, I decided to go with 2 draw trigger. So the 2 draw is basically just for extra draw power to go with the Marron. So I've got kind of like 6 card outlets that give me draw power. But also the perfect guard aspect of the card is quite useful at times, especially if you've got like a really overwhelming attack that you just can't deal with. The PG aspect of the card is just useful because, yeah, sure, you got the 30k element from the crit Sentinel, but sometimes that might not be enough. So yeah, I decided to go with a 2-2 split on this, but if you want to go a bit more balls to the wall and replace these for 2 more of this, be my guest. I just prefer a 2-2 split is all, so that's just me. So yeah, and then of course we have the 4 heal trigger. Went with the Pegasus. I don't know, go whichever one you want. You can go with the lane if you want to. I decided to go with Pegasus since it's a bit of a different variation of Royal Paladin. I usually like keeping a lane with, like, blasters and stuff like that, but that's just my personal preference, isn't it? But yeah, that's going to do it for the deck, guys. That is Sanctuary Guard Dragon. Of course, we did get a really cool quick shield marker to go with it as well, for like the Sanctuary Guard logo sort of thing. And yeah, like I said, you mainly want to be focusing on Force 1. There are some times where Force 2 might come up as an option, depending on the situation, but yeah, more times than often you are going for that Force 1 play. But yeah, overall, I quite like Sanctuary Guard. It's a really nice alternative deck that we can play with Royal Paladin. It gives us like a restanding Vanguard to play around with. And yeah, I just think it was a really cool addition to have. Now, we are going to be getting the clan selection soon, but before that, we do have some more deck profiles coming out on the channel, and they have a bit more meaning to them for me, personally, but I'll explain that when those videos come out. But yeah, I'm quite happy that Sanctuary Guard finally arrived, and finally I was able to do a deck profile on it as well. But yeah, that's going to do it for me, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. The deck list will be in the description as always, and yeah, that's going to do it for me. So thank you guys very much for watching, and this is Guardian285, signing out.